Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it's time for part 2 of the Q&A, so let's go ahead and get this started. Alright, first question. Although you reverted to more traditional speed work, I was wondering if adding reps to speed work instead of weight during a 3-week wave might be an option. I really don't like doing bench speed work at 70%, especially when using a wide grip, so I was thinking of doing a 3-week wave on a set weight for bench, but doing sets of 3 on week 1, 4, and 2, and then 5 and 3, then adding 5 kilograms, repeating the cycle. I don't expect you to recommend it, but is there any reason you think it's an outright terrible idea? Yeah, I think it's an outright terrible idea. If you're struggling with speed work at 70% straight weight, the last thing you need to be doing is adding more reps. You're slow, okay? You are effing slow. You think doing 5 rep sets slow is going to help you? I want us to think about that for a minute. Because I program this for my guys who don't have bands and chains. I do 60, 65, 70 all the time. They have to learn to get fast at 70. I mean, brother, it's 70% with no bands or chains. All right? You should be able to explode the holy hell out of that. What's the issue? Okay, you're looking at realizing that you have a deficiency in your speed strength. Okay, you're realizing you have it, and as a crutch, instead of training it, you're like, I'll just do some more reps. Okay, that's not going to solve the issue. Because think about what some of my waves look like. You're like, well, you're using bands and chains. Yeah, but if I'm running 25% band tension against 60% in my final waves, I'm hitting 80% by the halfway spot, and I'm still having to explode through. Right? You need to get your speed up. You're not getting tight enough. There's something going on. You need to get set in tighter. You need to be gripping the bar harder. You need to be more aggressive. You might need to get aggressive. I tell guys to be very, very calm when we do max work. In fact, I talk with my lifters about this a lot because I've watched guys mess it up and they don't listen to me, and then they have major problems. Like when you don't listen to coach, things don't work very well when you decide to do stuff your own way. Okay, we don't want to do it on max work, but speed work, maybe you need to psych yourself up. Maybe you need to crank the Slayer up at that point. Maybe you need to find that deep inner hatred, that dark spot inside you, that dark place, and find that and channel it and put all of your hate and anger into that bar and make that 70% explode and pop the bar. Stop pussyfooting around and finding crutches. I like you, by the way. You're normally a regular poster, and I like this guy. So I'm giving you some tough love. Okay, it's time to sack up and put some extra effort into your speed work. Stop pussyfooting around. Okay? You're not doing yourselves any favors. Get tighter, learn to explode, grip the bar harder, and dig in and do it. Stop looking for a workaround. You know you're slow if you're struggling with the 70%. Fix it. All right, next question. Jason, if you're so promotive of using as much muscle as you can during the squat, why aren't you squatting low bar? Because squatting a low bar versus high bar doesn't work more muscle in your lower body. Okay? It doesn't matter. This is where people get it mixed up. They're confusing high bar and low bar with wide stance versus Olympic squatting. Now, I blame starting strength for that because they seem to almost promote that, of course, when you go to a wide stance, you go low bar. That's not necessarily true. It's not necessarily true at all. Okay. Now keep in mind, low bar versus high bar is really a continuum. It's not even an either or. And we have to stop thinking in this context. And I know we'll say stuff like high bar or whatever, but look, There's a continuum. There's multiple inches where you could place your bar. High bar is generally just what we refer to when it's higher up onto the traps themselves, and low bar down the back. Like for some people, what I would call high bar, some people think of as low bar, but it's really not. Low bar is when it's on your back, not your traps. Okay? Traps and rear delts are supporting the weight. That's still high bar. Low bar is usually when it goes below the delts and you're bent all the way forward. We could argue that high bar uses more muscles of the back. Okay, we could make that argument. What you're thinking of with the muscle involvement with the lower body is your stance width. The wider stance uses more muscles. The wider stance uses more muscles. And it also puts you into some of that leverage advantage, because we bring the center of gravity back. Okay, we bring the center of gravity back. And look, I'm not saying there's even anything wrong with being a little lower with some lower versions of the bar. Just be aware of your shoulder health if you're going to do that. There's a reason so many different barbells have been invented. It's kind of hard to squat that way all the time, isn't it? Yeah. It's real hard to squat that way sometimes. Just choose your shoulders up. I would make the argument that you should probably still do a lot of your squatting without that position to build your base up. And if you want more lower body involvement, and you need to just go to a wider stance. We get more hip, we get more abductor, which is going to be hip, more adductor. Okay. Change the range of motion. Let's just move more weight. But that's what you're thinking of with the muscle involvement. You're thinking of foot stance, not bar placement. And people confuse the two a lot. And I'm going to have to repeat that in Q&As over and over and over, I think, because people don't seem to get it. And that's okay, because there's been a lot of conflicting and confusing information out there. All right, next question and a last question of the week. Are you going to do beltless training again? I have no plans to. In fact, you see me doing belted work for a lot of my supplemental lifts. Something I had to conclude ultimately is I quit being dogmatic a long time ago. Now people say, but Jason, if you're doing tons of belted work, aren't you being dogmatic? No, not really. Am I being dogmatic in a certain way? Yes. I want to maximize muscle fiber recruitment, irradiation effect, all of that on most of my training. Okay, I'm concerned with that. The overwhelming amount of data at this point is suggesting that belted training helps not only with irradiation and therefore better neuromuscular efficiency, it also helps with recovery, potentially because of reduced axial loading, because we build the intra-abdominal pressure better. Number 3, even on the EMGs, pushing against the belt lights the abs up more. Now, we could make all these arguments of, we could debate that latter. Does the EMG activation actually mean more muscle development? Well, I don't really care. I know people say, but Jason, you don't care about abdominal development? No, not for my squats and deadlifts and benching. I don't care at all. And I'm not saying let me rephrase that. I'm not concerned with maximizing it because I know I'm getting some on all of those. I'm concerned with maximum strength and muscle development. I can go through and train everything else separate that needs to be trained. It's like I train my triceps, I train my abs. Okay, what do I mean I train my abs? I do at least a dozen sets pretty much to failure for my abs every week. Okay, let's come over and think about that in terms of muscles. If I'm training my abs with superior exercises, direct movements, I love hanging leg raises. That's my go-to. I like to sometimes just do crunches to failure, which you can take a couple hundred every now and then. I like to just do that sometimes also. But I do hanging leg raises. That is my go-to right now. I do a minimum of about 12 sets a week, sometimes more. Pretty much limit sets with those. That's going to be superior abdominal development than anything we're discussing with Beltless. Whether we want to argue the belt helps or hurts ab development slightly is largely irrelevant, because in that context, my actual ab training is far more involved. And it's certainly not hurting me. I'm moving heavier and heavier weights. My abs are clearly getting stronger. So I'm not worried about using beltless training to build my core. I'm worried about getting as strong and as jacked as possible through all the tools that I have available. And I realized a long time ago, as much as beltless training might seem to be fun and seem to make sense, in the grand scheme of things, I'm just going to do most of my stuff belted. It seems to work best for the overall flow of my training, my needs, everything else. And as an insurance policy, I just train all my core directly anyways. And I do tons of it. Why? Because it works. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.